conditions are on, the windows are closed, the blinds are drawn, and we are in the air condition, and we are speaking, we should be guided that such confined spaces with poor ventilation or fresh ventilation pose a threat, and that the duration they in those conditions can increase the probability of our getting infected. Touching infected surfaces or objects, then touching mouth, nose or eyes is known. COVID-19 is known to live for hours or days on a surface depending on the factors such as light and humidity. So we should be careful about touching surfaces and touching our mouths, our noses, and our eyes. Older persons and people of age with underlying medical conditions, heart attacks, diabetes, liver asthma are at a higher risk of severe illness or death from COVID-19. Please let's pay attention to these ones while we go out there to visit our aged, whilst we interact with them. Let's know that they are a high-risk category of persons, and we should be careful about how we interact with them. And for our elderly, the advice is that when you show symptoms, please immediately make the call, the emergency numbers and the COVID numbers for assistance. For the elderly and for persons who have underlying health conditions, it's important that immediately you feel unwell, you make contact for assistance. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are proceeding with the briefing. At the last briefing, we were informed that the Director General of the Ghana Health Service led a high-powered delegation to Obuasi, and also another team was dispatched to Tema to conduct service and understand the situation in the two communities, Obuasi and Tema. I shall invite Dr. Franklin Asebekring, Head of Disease Surveillance, to give us an update on the situation in Obuasi and Tema. Dr. Franklin. And please use the sanitizer.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to give an update of the situation as it pertains to two main areas. One is Obuasi, and the other is a factory in Tema. Let me say that Ghana, as we speak now, has two main high-burden cities or regions. So that is Ashanti region and Greater Accra. But if you look at the trajectory of our outbreak over a period of time, there have been significant events that occurred 2 weeks ago. But some of these events actually predated the reports from the lab. And that was the context in which we had these situations in Obuasi and Tema. So I would like to say that as I speak now, Obuasi is actually the main hotspot for Ashanti region, and there's a clear focus to see how best we can address the challenge. So in that context, a high-power team led by the Director General of Ghana Health Service went to Obuasi to look at the situation on the ground, what are the predisposing factors, and then to make recommendations. But it must be said that Obuasi is actually very active, with a lot of collaboration being undertaken by Anglo-Gold, Ashanti, Municipal Assembly, and other relevant stakeholders. So, please, can I have the slide? Yes. So, most of my presentation is going to focus on this slide. And let me say that Ghana's two cases actually were reported on the 12th of March. The next day, the 13th, that's when the Obuasi case. And if you look at this slide, you can see that Obuasi was quiet until about 2 weeks. And then this first case, which is the first case in Obuasi, that case actually had 109 contacts. And one of these contacts actually became a case. So you see that Obuasi was quiet until 29th of March, then he had a second case. So he had 2 cases right through the town. And we started the enhanced contact tracing. So we started getting a few cases. If you look at this slide, it clearly tells you that it is not very extraordinary to get cases of, let's say, around less than 10 or 20 in a very densely populated community. So this person, you see that there's a bit of quietness, and they enter into May, and they have a bit of spikes. But why the furor that occurred, the issue was that, as of last week, that was the time that we had the influx of the lab results. So these are events that had occurred, but there were no evidence of it by lab results. So this slide tells you about when the events occurred. So in trying to look at this slide, there are 2 things happening. I actually break down Obuasi into 2 sections. That is the new cases and the old cases, where the reference is May. So trying to have an intervention, we look at where is the case. Is it the old case or new case? And we say that Obuasi is one area that has a lot of population. So the population density is very high. It's one area that, though Anglo Ashanti has a prominent hospital, but they don't have a treatment facility. So Obuasi does not have a treatment facility. Then you also see that, when we went there, though it was a casual survey, one thing which was obvious was that you do not see people wearing face masks. So it tells you that there's a challenge about how they prevent disease in Obuasi. Then they also do not have a treatment facility. So if you have a community that has such high numbers of persons who are infected, and there is no place for them to to hold, then it will expose you to the high rate of infection that pertains to Obuasi. So I want to put on record that apparently Obuasi is working as a joint community. They have the Obuasi Municipal and Obuasi East. For this outbreak, they are joint. So it's jointed at the level of the assembly, it's jointed at the level of even the health sector. So there's a bit of collaboration in that perspective. They even have what they call the COVID-19 center. It's actually a control room put in place by Anglo Ashanti. So coordination purposes, they have that facility in place. And you can see that there are records. There's a lot of activities that are taking place before the spike. But let me say that I think the release of the results took them by surprise. So they had a clear check system, but were not aware that they have this quantum disease sitting in that community. So what do they hope to address this spike, this magnitude of disease in Obuasi? What done is that they've tried to incorporate the surrounding districts. So they have Adansi South, so Adansi Asqua, Adansi North. So these are districts that have come to bring their expertise and their numbers to bear on Obuasi. So for this response, we have a combination of Obuasi, Adansi and Adansi North. They are all together to address the magnitude of the disease. And as I said, because we are breaking Obuasi into 2 perspectives, the first perspective, the older one, what we are doing is that we are testing or retesting all of them, because those are old cases. So they are no more, you cannot classify them as positive cases. So all we want to know is that what is their current status. So we don't need to isolate them. So we're going to retest of them, which have started. And then we're going to carry out enhanced contact tracing in very high risk areas. Obuasi has very densely populated communities like Bahabobomi, Tutuka, Central Market, Einem, Asankore, Wawaso, Bumpe, Kunka. So these are highly densely populated communities that the focus is to see whether we can pick some positives in that community. Then we're also going to do mass voluntary testing among certain risk groups, including taxi drivers and food vendors. So that's by way of trying to address surveillance and contact management, Obuasi. Cases here is the main lab that has tested, but they have been under a lot of stress. Until recently, they were testing most part of northern Ghana. So you see that accounted for the backload, that accounted for some missing this magnitude of a disease. But when we went there, they had challenges that they needed extraction kits, which DG and the ministry is to get it provided. And then if you look at Ghana's intervention, we initially started with swabs, but now have gone on to do sputum. So now we have a bit more of swabs now, so they are going to use swabs in addition to the sputum. Then for case management, as I said, Obuasi has no treatment center, so the plan is to have a 100-room isolation center. The idea is that they currently now have a 22-bed facility, which is actually made of cells, and the regional minister has actually identified a 48-room facility, which is hoping to be used as the isolation center. So in that context, they are getting close to using a 100-bed facility for isolation. Then they want to get a treatment center. Currently now they have the Obuasi government hospital, and what they want to do, they want to convert the male ward into a 14-bed treatment center. So that's why they hope to address the issue about treatment. And let me say that through DG and Minister, they have gotten a facility in Kumasi, actually as a Giso. That is 100-bed facility, actually from so that can handle isolation cases. Then we also have the region has also a facility in TUC that can also take care of the additional cases for isolation. So that tries to suffice isolation in Obuasi. Risk communication, one thing which was obvious is that they used to have a bad momentum which has died down because they were not seeing the cases. So the way forward is for them to mount information vans with pre-recorded messages in Twi and English that will be bled across the town. And then, as I said earlier, to actually identify and sensitize high-risk groups, including drivers, to make sure they are all brought to bear. So that the idea of wearing mask becomes part of their way of doing it. And then they hope to engage more of organized. Let me say that when we went there, we had a meeting actually organized by the municipal executive, and they are brought to bear religious leaders, drivers, all together. So it tells you that they have clear direction about how to address the spike in Obuasi. So that's my presentation on Obuasi. Let me give you a few minutes presentation on the Tema situation. The Tema one is about a factory. It's a fixed processing factory that had an employee who presented with respiratory symptoms and was actually seen by the clinic in the facility. They took samples and was asked to go home. And then after about a week, the results came. So when the results came, they actually identified her contacts. And then at that time, they had 219 contacts. So it was initial tests that were done. And to get a broader view of what is happening in the factory, that has a population of about 1,300. They tested everybody in the factory. So what came out was that initially it was 533, but finally it was 693 that tested positive, 695 that tested positive in the facility. So the rest were negative. So what was our approach to handling this? And the idea was immediately the factory was closed down. And then it was assessed to look at gaps that exist in such a facility. And one thing which was very obvious for such a facility, you could see that the employees were much more than the space. That was one obvious thing. The other thing was that the social or physical distancing was a challenge. Then they also have issue about, they have a canteen, and you can see that social distancing is also not being practiced in the canteen. So they have a table that 6 people sit on. So it tells you that there's so much closeness. They also have a bus that carries them around. And social distancing is also not practiced in that bus. Then they have called a turnstile. It's like before you enter the factory, you have to go through it. So it's an entity that can actually transmit infection among a group. So they also have a login system whereby you have to put your finger on. So those are all predisposing factors that can make you get the infection. So going forward, the idea is, how do we look at the situation in the factory? And then how do we manage the cases and the contacts? So let me say that I speak today. For the 695 positive cases, the result that has come is that 624 are negative and 07 are positive. So it tells you that 95% of the people who were positive are now negative. So now we are trying to move the 7 to our isolation center in Pentecost facility. But let me say that these are all asymptomatic persons. And what we are doing is that if you look at these 695 persons, they were scattered across Accra. So all of them, they don't live in Tema. So you have they living in Ashama, Lejokuku, and the rest. So that is that we have reallocated them to their districts to identify the contacts and do the follow-up. So that's being done. But then we try to look at the factory. So what is being done at the factory? And we visited the factory to assess what measures put in place to avoid spread. And then what is very obvious is that hand wash facilities have been placed at the entrance of each section. So there's a conscious effort to ensure hand washing. Then they've tried to put floor markings. The idea is to ensure physical distance. So you can see where you are supposed to stand. So there is a factory. So they are telling you where to stand. You do not know where to stand. They send their markings to ensure there's a physical presence, physical distance. Then all staff are wearing the face mask. Then hand sanitizers in place at all vantage points. Then the canteen that I said was a table that houses 6 people. Now they are housing 2. Even if it should be 3 because it can take 3. So they are ensuring distance now. And then they have created a holding room to handle a case of suspected COVID. So in that case, if you think that it could be a case, you usually move there before actions are taking place. Then they've also introduced a temperature check point at the entrance of the company. So in that perspective, that the factory is ready to start operations. And I think that we'll communicate our findings to them and we'll have a good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Franklin Adedubekwin is head of disease surveillance at Ghana Health Service. We are told that for the case, the situation in Obuasi, for the old cases, and aggressive retesting of those cases are ongoing. We are also told that for the newer cases, enhanced contact tracing has resumed in those areas that Dr. Franklin spoke about, those highly populated areas that Dr. spoke about. Enhanced contact tracing is ongoing. Again, voluntary mass testing is being rolled out in Obuasi, especially for high-risk communities such as taxi and commercial drivers and so on. That is also being rolled out in Obuasi. We have been informed that extraction kits have now been presented to the KCCR, which is in Kumasi and therefore closest to Obuasi, which has been conducting the test from cases from Obuasi. The extraction kits have now been provided to KCCR. We have also been informed that the male ward of the Obuasi Government Hospital is being turned into a treatment center. These are the actions that the Ghana Health Service is taking to immediately deal with the peculiar situation in Obuasi, that the male ward of the Government Hospital in Obuasi is now being turned into the treatment center for COVID-19. A 100-bed facility has been identified and is also serving as an isolation center together with another facility in Kumasi. So the problem of isolation has also been resolved. Of course, we have been informed that public education on preventive etiquettes, such as the wearing of masks, which we continue to underscore. It is extremely important that we wear our masks. Our mask helps us to protect others. If you wear your mask, you are protecting somebody else from being infected. And when somebody else also wears his or her mask, that person is also protecting us from being infected. So you wear the mask, you protect somebody. I wear the mask, I also protect somebody. It's important that if we all wear the mask, we will protect each other and we shall cut through the rate of infestations greatly. So public education on those preventive etiquettes are being heightened on wearing of masks, washing of hands, the use of hand sanitizer, and so on and so forth. We have also been informed that in total, for the Tema factory case, a total of about 695 persons tested positive at the end of the day. Initially, we were dealing with some 533 individuals who are tested positive. At the end of the day, a total of 695 persons tested positive. Good news is that out of that 695 test results that have come so far, 624 have now tested negative, a first negative. And so, in due course, inshallah, when they test negative again, I believe that they will conform to the protocols that they can now be declared as having fully recovered. But for the records, as of now, 624 out of the 695 that tested positive in the fish factory in Tema have now tested the first negative. Only 7 out of the first cohort have tested positive. They are undergoing continuous care and treatment, and we hope that in the near future they too will test positive. Immediately the authorities moved in, the factory was closed down for assessment, and doctor gave insight to the findings. And I think that it is particularly important that we pay attention to the findings from the factory so that it can serve as an experience, a learning experience for most other companies and factories as well. Issues of overcrowding on the factory floors has come up strongly in doctors' presentation. Overcrowding definitely will make social and physical distancing impossible, if not difficult, if not impossible. And so, shift systems, how we can arrange each work schedules so that we can have enough physical space to avoid overcrowding so that we can have the social and physical distancing is critical for work environment and work managers and management. We must take that into consideration. How we treat our canteens and bathing of our staff has been flagged one of the potential areas. Busing of our staff, that has also been flagged. Another issue that we must pay attention to, and please, all of these are lessons that we have to learn from and put mechanisms in place to deal with them. It doesn't mean that maybe completely we should close down canteens and all. And doctor says that now, instead of 6 people sitting around the table, they are looking at about 2 or 3. So we can even have different times for different canteens from different groups working in the factory. All of these matters for management to consider. But one critical thing, the idea of a clock in or time scan on even an ATM machine at the bank, how we treat them is essentially important from the learning from Tema. We can continue to use our clock-in machines, we can continue to use our ATM machines, but we must treat them in a particular way so that do not become avenues for spreading COVID-19, which means that immediately before or after use of any of these, either an ATM or clock-in machine, you have to make sure that you sanitize either the machine and your hand. It's critical. If you go to the bank to withdraw your money, the learning is that it is important that the bank itself also put measures in place to deal with some of these issues. But at the personal level, you too, who before and immediately after using an ATM machine, you must also sanitize, use the hand sanitizer, or wash your hand under running water. We are also informed that remedial action has been taken by the company, and the Ghana Health Service has moved in back to do a reassessment and do re-examination, and they are convinced that now the factory has become compliant, COVID-19 compliant, with the markings on the floor and all the protocols now that they have put in place. They may become compliant, and very soon the Ghana Health Service will reach them and inform them about the way forward. So we are grateful to our colleagues at the Ghana Health Service Disease Surveillance, headed by Dr. Franklin Bedu, Dr. Franklin Asiedu Bequin, for the good work that you are doing for Mother Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, I informed earlier that the Honorable Minister for Energy will join us with an update on some payments that the government has made to the Electricity Company of Ghana. He is here. We acknowledge his presence. In due course, we will invite the Honorable Minister to take the podium and share with us some more good news in addition to the absorption of electricity tariffs for those of us line consumers, and half of those of us who are above lifeline, that His Excellency the President through the ministry is implementing. We also have the Presidential Advisor on Health. He's also joined us, Dr. and former Director General at the Ghana Health Service is also here with us, Dr. Anthony Insiasari. We are grateful for your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, stigmatization become a major concern for the government and the people of Ghana. At this briefing today, we are minded to address that important issue of stigmatization. I shall invite Dr. Wiafi Akintimbrenya, member of the Ghana Psychological Association in charge of COVID-19 stigma reduction initiatives, to help us get an understanding of how to deal with the worrying development of stigma. Dr. Wiafi Akintimbrenya, you may take the podium. Please sanitize with the hand sanitizer and Doc.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. I'm here, as I said, on behalf of the Ghana Psychological Association to have interaction with you, especially on the issue of stigma. Since the first case of COVID-19 started, the Ghana Psychological Association, with the support of the Department of Psychology, University of Ghana, have supported the ministries, especially in providing psychological support for those who are on quarantine, waiting testing or test results, those who were tested positive to COVID-19, and while they were under care. We hope to continue to work with the ministries to provide the support. Now let me look at stigma. Stigma is a general thing that's been with society probably since Eve was added to Adam. And every society, one way or the other, have certain things they stigmatize. In general, it might be your physical appearance. It might be your social group. It might be your profession. It can be any other thing. So I want to look at one, what is stigma, on what basis do we stigmatize people, what are the effects, and what we can do. Stigma, says a Greek word that originally, and if we understand the origin, maybe we'll know why. It came out of a mark, a deep mark, that was made on an individual. Either he was a criminal, a traitor, or a thief. And the essence is to make sure that wherever he goes, people see him or her, they keep away from this person. So they were set aside, maybe the bad guys from the good guys. And since then, it has come to be part of our social life. So who is usually subject to stigma? One, as I said, may be your physique, your physical appearance. Every society has certain ideal physical appearance for males and females, for different age group. So if you don't fit in, depending on the deviation, then you may be perceived as different, having characteristics that are unacceptable and not required. It might also be part of people's, your social grouping, maybe race, maybe ethnic group. It may even be a condition of albinism or other things. The rest are also as a result of personal life or style, the way people want to live their life. Somebody want to have a tattoo on the part of the body, but others will see that as undesirable, and on that basis, they may stigmatize them. So in general, stigma can apply to everyone, depending on your society, your age group, the subculture, and what is perceived as right or wrong. The other angle is also illness. And the unfortunate and the ironic thing about this is that in our culture, that in Ghana, under no circumstance are we allowed to use people sickness or illness, either congenital, accident, or by lifestyle, against them in any way. However, unfortunately, in this text, we use that. In the past, it has been people who are physically challenged, who are mentally, in terms of psychological challenge. It may be some form of impairment. HIV/AIDS had the same thing. And now the specific thing is on COVID-19. So why? The reason is that, as the medical people will tell us, they say it's novel. Not much is known about it. So most people put certain interpretation, the conceptions we have, the belief we have about it, that is probably as a result of a curse or sickness or certain lifestyle. So one is the misconception. The other angle is the fear that is associated with the sickness or the virus, that there's a possibility that if I get to the person, I may also contract it. And the other angle associated with the stigma does not affect only the person who has tested positive or who is under quarantine, but other people around him, family members, friends, co-workers. Why? Because stigma is also contagious, in quote, as other medical, communicable, or infectious diseases. That's in the thought of people, that's how they see it. And that's why they don't only avoid the person, but the family, friends, neighbors, and others. What are the effects? The effects are a lot. First, let's look at the physical. When we see such people, the extent is to label them, call their names, run away from them. That has the potential to emotionally affect the individual. It has also prevented even from getting to where others are, and that can lead to self-isolation. The other effect is that it will prevent people from reporting when they have the symptoms. And you and I know that if it is not reported, then the spread is going to increase. Stigma can also lead to discrimination of different forms. Work and services that you are entitled to. Indeed, some landlords or landladies are not likely to rent out their homes or houses to you. Your tenants may even put pressure on landlord, landlady, or even on you directly to move. And in the specific case of Ghana, we have observed about 4 issues that are somehow different from the general one that happens elsewhere and also as an academic in the literature. The first one is avoidance, as the case in Bolgatanga and rest. Those who are self-employed, now customers, clients, and even their own friends are telling them, don't get. So that is very, very dangerous because one, going to affect their livelihood, and unless they move away from the town or there's some support or immediately we are able to reduce stigma, it's going to affect them. So that is one peculiar thing we need to look at. The second thing is very unfortunate. The little girl who was stoned or there was an attempted stoning. The question is, she was not tested positive. Why? It goes back to the case I said, it is what? Contagious. By association. And the contagious is in code. And it means that if this little girl had not been lucky, it would have been fatal as the disease or any other thing may be. The next one is the lady in the Bolga issue said, my friends and some family members called me. And in Ghana, in our culture, when somebody is sick, what do? We call to which the person was. But in this case, to taunt her, as if to say that we are happy. And this is a very, very serious thing that we also need to look at. Then the other last peculiar Ghana case is the gentleman where he used to play with his friends, maybe Ludo, drafts, and all that. They say, we don't want you. So looking at this, in as far as the virus itself is very dangerous, the social angle, which is the stigma angle, is also equally dangerous because that will linger long after even the virus has been taken care of. So what can be done? A lot of that, and my previous presenters also make mention of that. We need to educate. Sensitize. Awareness creation. And our media have always been very wonderful. And let me also commend them especially that in this particular issue, they have really spoken to the professionals, those who have the expertise, the knowledge to talk to the public as against general discussion that may not be helpful. Continuing with the education also means that we need to do several radio program, television, animated, rare one, different languages, with the facts, different time, targeting different. Then we also need to include the heroes that have come out, as it was done about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The essence of that is to present to the general public that the people who recovered are the same as they were. Whatever they used to do, they're capable of doing it. Nothing has changed. So we need to encourage more people to let them come out and speak out and help us to reduce stigma. The other angle is to also include people. You know, we have a lot of faith-based organizations in the country. And most people respect their imams, their pastors, and their chiefs. So if we include them, I will even go a step further and humbly appeal to the president that in his next speech, he can make a statement. And that is going to be very powerful. Because when you talk about consumery and the rest, it looks like it's going up. I'd like to end by saying that the Ghana Psychological Association is ever ready to continue the work we've been doing with the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Information. And we have also rolled out some programs that we collaborate with NCE, then we'll come to the ministry to share and we see how best we can move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Information once again reiterates that all of us, especially those who are minded to publicly comment on COVID-19 and its response strategy, to pay attention to the regular briefings on COVID-19. Colleagues, you recall that officials of the Ghana Health Service and the Honorable Minister for Information have repeated time without number at our press briefings that the Ghana protocol for declaring COVID-19 infected persons as COVID involves obtaining 2 straight negative results, and that many persons who had been infected were awaiting their second tests. And once those test results came back negative, those persons would be declared recovered. It had abundantly been made clear that recovery was a process and not an event, and does not occur overnight. We are concerned that insinuations that cast doubt on the veracity of recoveries declared by the Ghana Health Service, and now a suggestion of street proof of recoveries, can worsen the already dire problem of stigmatization of persons who have recovered. We admonish fellow countrymen and women to gladly welcome our compatriots who were once infected and tested positive, but have gone through the process of receiving care and have now conservatively tested negative and fully recovered back in our various communities as persons who are fully recovered and who pose no threat to us. It will be dangerous if in our communities people began to doubt the Ghana Health Service and resorted to putting persons who have recovered to strict proof, whatever that means. We continue to assure the people of Ghana that government will ensure that accurate and truthful information on COVID-19, including information on recoveries, is made available in a timely manner, and we ask that all persons who have recovered are wholeheartedly accepted in our communities, workplaces, etc. Instead of casting doubt on their work, we owe gratitude to the several frontline health professionals, doctors, nurses, laboratory officials, etc., who are providing treatment and care for the sick and ensuring that they are fully recovered. Ill wish and inconsiderate partisan commentary are counterproductive in our struggle against COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite the Honorable Minister for Energy, Honorable John Peter Amewu, who has joined us to provide the nation with an update on some payments by government to the electricity of Ghana to cover some legacy indebtedness to MDAs to take the podium. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Minister of Information, our hard-working medical doctors here, the media, my humble Deputy Minister for Energy, the MD of ECG. Good morning to you all. This morning, I'm here to give you a brief overview and some developments of our power sector. First of all, use this opportunity to also let you understand that the government has already made some payment to EG as a result of the COVID-19 subsidy scheme that was introduced for a period of 3 months. You recollect that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo did broadcast to the nation that as part of alleviation strategy during the period of the COVID, Ghanaians are expected to enjoy some relief from utility companies. And I'm happy to announce that that process is currently ongoing, and customers throughout the country have demonstrated and testified that this relief from the government is actually real. I also want to use the opportunity again this morning to give you a quick update on efforts made by government to clear some of its outstanding debts owed to ECG, or the Electricity Company of Ghana. It is a fact which I know, and most of you are aware, that on assumption of office, this administration was confronted with a huge indebtedness to the Electricity Company of Ghana. For your information, as of December 2016, when the NDC left office, then under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the total bill owed ECG by government of Ghana at that time was 2.63 billion Ghana cedis. The NPP government, on assumption of office, ensured that it was current on all the bills incurred during its tenure from 2017 to date. Ladies and gentlemen, on the average, the government under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has paid 2 billion annually to cover its bills with the Electricity Company of Ghana. Today, at the end of 2019, all government bills with ECG had been paid, and government had a credit balance of 500 million Ghana cedis with ECG. Ladies and gentlemen, with an average bill payment of about 100 million per month, the credit balance of over 500 million Ghana cedis is enough and more than enough to pay for government bills from January to April 2020. It is also interesting to note that an unreconciled additional payment of 4.14 billion cedis has also been made to various fuel suppliers of power producers, which is yet to be credited to government under the ongoing reconciliation exercise. And so if this amount, 4.14 billion, to a credit of almost about 500 million which government has paid, if this reconciliation is done, and government is in a comfortable position to inform reliable consumers of electricity that the sector is gradually getting out of ills. Under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we are committed to address the financial challenges of the energy sector, and we are in course to fulfill it. The energy sector reform program, which was instituted, has already been approved by Cabinet, and this was chaired by the Senior Minister. I am happy to report that under the energy sector reform program, government will continue to work towards a reliable, effective electricity company in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's hardworking Minister at the Ministry of Energy, Honorable John Peter Amewu, with that good news for the people of Ghana. We are grateful, Honorable Minister, for the work that you are doing in implementing business vision at the Ministry of Energy. Colleagues, very soon we will have to locate to the Jubilee House to continue with the presidential launch of the 600 million Ghana cedis stimulus package, the business support scheme to Ghanaian micro, medium, and small scale enterprises. And so we have to be quick about it. We shall take some 5 questions so that we can all join His Excellency the President in performing that important function at exactly 11 o'clock in the morning. Question time, please. So your name and your question, let us keep it snappy today. We appreciate that we have to be in the Jubilee House to join His Excellency the President to perform that all-important function of the launch. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Deputy Minister, my name is Bill Bennett. I'm with Top FM and Top TV. My question has to do with COVID-19 deaths. The victims who are being kept at the morgue. Has government currently undergone burials for some of these victims? And people are asking to know, do the family have the ability to visit their family members in those morgues across the country? Are they being kept in one particular morgue? And the question that comes with that has to do with when a person dies out of COVID, there's still the possible effect of them transmitting or being at risk of transmission to any of the families that visit them. What is the current protocol observed by government when it comes to the deaths of these families and their funerals? And do families have a say in the funerals of these people? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Selo Amenya. I work with TV3. So last week, 11 cases were recorded in Ashaiman, the police cells. We want to know the latest update on it. And then we also told that some 54 samples were taken alongside the 11. We have results for that yet. And then last, Dr. Bidua Sarkodie told us also that it is risky to conduct autopsy on persons who have died so far as COVID is concerned. But we have seen a report by one of our media houses which suggests that autopsy has been carried, and it says that some died with COVID and then some died of COVID. Can we get maybe an explanation as to what it means to say that somebody has died of and somebody has died with COVID? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anson Ajiman, I work with City News. First is on the recoveries. So before the May 12th, the recoveries were captured under the routine surveillance. Now it's all been lumped together. We want if there's a categorization, how many fall under enhanced contact tracing and the mandatory quarantine. And Doc, you said in Accra, just 2% has recovered. We want to know what exactly is happening. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what you said. You said 24 for Greater Accra, F. Kumasi, and 2% for Accra. And then on PPEs, a group of health NGOs are calling for the removal of the tariffs on the importation of PPEs. We want to know what government makes on that. And then on the district hospitals that are supposed to be constructed, we've seen a document, a memo from the Ministry of Local Government to MDs to liaise with institutions to help release funds to them, but we don't see Savannah region in there. We find out if perhaps it's a mistake or what exactly that is. And finally, to the Minister of Energy, we want to find out for prepaid consumers what exactly. So, for instance, the energy rebate is supposed to be at the end of the month, but assuming I top up every 2 weeks, am I going to get a 50% at every top up, or I'll get it at the end of the month? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Honourable Minister will take the part that relates to the prepaid consumers and how their utility tariffs will be treated. But as he prepares to come to the podium, let me announce that the building of the 88 district hospitals, His Excellency the President is specific and made the point that districts that do not have district hospitals, they are the 88. I can assure you that all regions and all districts that do not have district hospitals will be taken care of. So the question of Region A not being a part does not arise. If Region A has district hospitals, does not have district hospitals, that region, those district hospitals will be covered in the 88 district hospitals. And so that clarity must be made. I'll take the Energy Minister on the prepaid consumers and then proceed.
Thank you. If you recollect the announcement made by the President, using the March as the basis, so whether you buy the unit 3 or 4 times, it is that 50% of March bill that will be credited, to your new payslip, provided you go beyond the lifeline. If you are still within the lifeline, it is 100%. That is taken off. But immediately you go above the lifeline. If you buy 10 or 16 times, 50% of the March bill is known already. So that credit, you will get it for 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director General Health Service, please, do we have any protocols on treatment of the dead and any guidelines on burial? There are some reported cases in Ashaman Police, the cells of Ashaman Police, what has happened to those cases. Then City News says that there are recoveries that are now lumped together. Our colleagues from you could have used the back door. You are interfering with the live coverage. Recoveries now lumped together. Recoveries now lumped together. They used to be segregated under the various categories, mandatory crime. Please speak to those or indicate which members of your team can deal with what issues. Tanzania Sari would also want to add a word to the 88 district hospitals. So Dr. Bedusa, Patrick Kuma Abuaje, please take the podium.
Thank you very much. I'll take as many as I can, and then Dr. Sarkodie will take those I didn't pick. The burials, it is, we have, the protocol is what we call supervised burial, which means that nobody touches the body. It doesn't mean that you don't do your burial. The environment people will assist you in cleaning and burial, and if it's going to be displayed, nobody is going to touch it. That is what it is. I believe in the mosques, they will be probably segregated somewhere, and in the same way that I don't touch, we will not allow anybody to touch, but there's still a lot that we have to learn as far as that is concerned. So all those we have done is based supervised burial. We've trained environmental people who assist the family along the way from conveying the body to the place, laying in state, probably in a a car that is covered that people can fire past, but not anybody touching the person until it's buried. The Ashama 11 cases, I think we'll do a follow-up with the district and see what the final details are. But what it means is that whatever results came, there was no positive from Ashama, which means that 54 samples that were taken is probably negative. I'll confirm and let you know. The recoveries. Yes, previously you used to put them in one column, but you also saw that not much was put on the various areas. We are doing a work to really dedicate them from those from enhanced surveillance and those from routine, and then when that work is done, we will republish. We also start from the isolation centers, and so we want to categorize them properly. The recoveries, I thought my slide was 22%, 22.6% in Greater Accra and not 2%. So get the corrections. And I think those are the ones I got. Lako, do you have any other to add? About the autopsy? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Yes.
So Dr. Bedusa Kode will speak to the autopsy, I believe so, and then Dr. Nsansari, the 88 district hospitals.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Good morning again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The comment on the risk involved in autopsy, indeed, this is a new virus, and as much as you know it, we cannot say that this very virus to the last end. How long does it live on the surface? There's been quite a number of studies. We can quickly talk about that. Within the internal organs, how long does this virus live in these internal organs in the living? It's not very clear to any scientist for now. How long does it live? Are there any latent phase of the infection in some of these organs in life, also in the dead? I think these are things that make it a bit risky or quite risky to do autopsy, and that is the rationale for the need for the use of personal protective clothing, which is PPE, and as much as possible, autopsy could be done. Our pathologists are aware of this risk, and any pathologist conducting any form of autopsy, they do prepare him or herself really well with the necessary PPEs and how to handle specific organs as they do this, particularly areas that are known to have high concentration of the virus, including the respiratory system and also the gastrointestinal system. So really there's a risk in autopsy, but then for every risk there's the mitigating factors. Then the various pathologists have means to deal with it by conducting the autopsy in safety. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dr. Nsansari, on the 88 districts, Savannah region, that's the question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think if you listen to the President very well on the 8th address, he said he's going to have hospitals in districts without hospitals. We counted 88 districts without hospital. If the one who has a question, you can also go to Savannah. There are a lot of hospitals, district hospitals ongoing at the moment. So we are filling in the gap of districts without hospitals. And if you also remember, he also mentioned that he's going to also put up regional hospitals in regions without hospital. And Savannah is one of the regions. Plus, Efie Kwanta Hospital rehabilitation and a new regional hospital in Efie Kwanta. So there is not like this region is not among. If you have a region where all the districts have hospitals, there will be no new hospital. But it's districts without hospital. And a very good work has been done. We went around, we spoke to district chief executive, district health directories, regional health directories. It came out of a list. And I know Savannah has a lot of district hospitals ongoing at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So for the avoidance of doubt, the policy remains that those districts without district hospitals will get their hospitals. We thank you very much for your attendance upon our invitation. We have now relocated to the Jubilee House for that all-important assignment, the launch of the stimulus package, the COVID-19 alleviation program that His Excellency the President is just about doing. We thank you for coming.